Okay, so we got Sylvester Stallone, Jason Statham, Jet Li, Dolph Lundgren, Chuck Norris, Terry Crews, Randy Couture, Liam Hemsworth, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Bruce Willis, and Arnold Schwarzenegger all together in the same movie? I think somebody better call Michael Bay, because the world is about to explode. Okay, so The Expendables 2, one of the more anticipated films of the summer, and a film responsible for combining some of the most well-known and badass action stars ever to grace the screens. So, how does it hold up? We're about to find out. Ordinarily, I would go into a description of the plot, but we all know there's no plot to be found here. No, I'm just kidding. There's a plot, but that's not why we're here. We all just want to see our favorite badass action stars kicking some ass on screen, and they most certainly do. With the exception of Mickey Rourke, every major member of the team returned for this one. So let's begin with the heavyweights, namely Stallone, Van Damme, Willis, Schwarzenegger, and Norris. So, Stallone is still the commander of the team, and he's still one of the most prominently featured actors in the film. Uh, yeah, that's not a surprise. The man, in his mid-60s, still able to go toe-to-toe with all of these guys. And he's definitely one of the more commanding presences. Do we really get to know anything else about his character? No, but that's not why we're here. You may remember that he actually both directed and wrote the first film. This one, he only wrote. He let somebody else direct, and I was fine with that. This one still has pretty much the same tone, and it manages to take things even further this time around. So, I think the decision was made for the best. Jean-Claude Van Damme, he is the main villain in this film, and his character's name is literally Villain. Yeah, that's right. It's villain, but with one L. How great is that? Granted, it does take a fair amount of time for him to just show up. I mean, for the first act, he's not present, but from the early stages of the second act onward, he's pretty much there throughout the whole thing, and he should be, considering he's the main villain. And I think he does a great job with what he's given. I mean, he doesn't really do all that much, but he does have one kick-ass showdown with Stallone, hand-to-hand fighting, and that is the kind of stuff that we come to see. The kind of stuff that we've come to expect from him, and he just did a great job with that. Bruce Willis. You may remember that he, along with Schwarzenegger, only had one scene in the original. Well, that's changed in this one. He does have a larger role, and he does have more to do. Granted, he is still not one of the main characters. Seriously, like in the first one, he shows up to give Stallone the mission. In another scene, we see him talking on the phone, and then after that, he finally shows up for the climax to join everybody in one badass finale. I am saying badass so much. I feel that he and Schwarzenegger especially had some great chemistry bouncing these lines off of each other, and Schwarzenegger, well, does he really need an introduction? Well, he gets one in the beginning of the film, and then we don't see him for over an hour, but then finally he returns for the climax, sticking his head out of a tank top, just declaring, "I'm back." That is awesome. And as I said, those two have great chemistry. They're constantly bouncing lines off each other. They get slipped in some other movie references. They got the Terminator. They got Die Hard. They even have a Rambo reference in there. So, hey, all the best stuff. I honestly feel that that was kind of what was missing from the first one, the classic movie references. But let's go on to the last one. The man himself, Chuck Norris. First, the bad news. It takes him nearly an hour to show up, and from that point onwards, he only acts as a gunman. But seriously, his entrance is awesome, just because he just comes walking out. He removes his glasses, and like every member of the team is just staring there in awe of his presence, like... Oh, that made me happy. The issue I took with this was that at first it came across as more of a glorified cameo, because he comes in, he has like a 2-minute discussion with Stallone about stuff, and then he just walks off, and I'm thinking like, oh wait, is that it? But no, he returns for the climax, sniping away, and that is so satisfying. So for anybody who may be wondering, no, we don't get to see him doing any martial arts, but come on, give the guy a break. He's like 71 now, but he must have found the fountain of youth because the man does not age. I swear, he looks like he's 40. He's got to be immortal. Behold the power of Norris. Sadly, Norris will not be returning for the Expendables 3. Yes, they've already announced a third one, and it's going into production soon. But no, he declared this is the end for him. He just wanted to make this one grand finale, and it's over. He's not coming back. So what do you say we move on to the rest of the cast, starting with Jason Statham? Jason. That's a great name. I honestly felt that in the first film, Statham was the one who received the most character development. I mean, he had a girlfriend, he had his own personal conflict going on. Well, you can kind of kiss that kind of development goodbye. His girlfriend does return once again, played by Charisma Carpenter, but it's only a cameo appearance. She's in one scene and that's it. The rest of it, he's talking to her on the phone and stuff, but it doesn't really go anywhere. Still, he does manage to kick some major ass. Next up is Jet Li, who despite being billed as one of the three main stars in the first one and probably received the second most in terms of character development, yeah, he's out of this one 10 minutes in. Seriously, he accompanies the team for the first mission, whips a guy with some frying pans, and gets a pretty cool fight scene. But no, then he just leaves the team. Bye, Lee, your check's in the mail. But that means that the next member of our cast, Dolph Lundgren, is lonely because he's lost his friend. Luckily, we get a new member of the team in the form of a woman. A woman in my Macho Manly Man film? Oh, perish the thought! Seriously though, her name is Maggie, she's played by Nan Yu, and she manages to hold up pretty well amongst all these big boys. In fact, Will has assigned Stallone the task of protecting her. He cannot let her be harmed by any means at all. And Lundgren does get a fair bit of development with this character, as does she, because they do have this kind of back and forth relationship going. Of course, she's not very interested in him. On the subject of character development, you know who does actually get a little more this time around? Hail Caesar, played again by Terry Crews. Seriously, can you imagine having a name like that? Hail Caesar! He gets some pretty funny dialogue, and he's also really good with his hands apparently, as he's able to build his own stuff pretty easily. He even made his own little one-cup coffee pot. So that's kind of cool. And the last returning member of the team is Toll Road, played again by Randy Couture, who honestly I feel got the least to do out of all the main team members. He gets a few humorous lines here and there, but that's about it. Then there's the very last member of the team, a new recruit, Billy the Kid, apparently, who is played by Liam Hemsworth, and he is a young guy. I mean, this guy's my age, he's 22. And he's kind of new to the whole action scene, so he's kind of like a hand for hire. But the guys really do care about him. He even gets some development. We find out he has a girlfriend, and he's doing this to pay for the whole relationship, to pay for her. He really wants to treat her well, so that's good. I really like that about him, so he was a good guy. Of course, don't expect this to be the whole passing of the torch kind of thing. He still pretty much gets outshined by a lot of the big names. But hey, they all come together in the end, participating in this one epic climax. And that was just so awesome to see. Though I wish it lasted longer. I think that may be one of the problems I have with the film. I didn't think it was long enough. It's 1 hour 43 minutes, which is the same length as the first one, but considering like 10 minutes of that is just the end credits, and you have all these characters, I really didn't feel it was enough time to do everybody the justice they deserved. But, it doesn't overstay its welcome, and hopefully there will be a director's cut for the Blu-ray. Fingers crossed. So apart from some of the actors getting kind of limited screen time and the film not having a whole lot of story to back it up, I'd say it's a really good time. There is some cheesy dialogue involved, but I think that just adds to the charm of it. And interestingly enough, for an R-rated film, it has no F-bombs in it, though it is very violent. So the young ones will want to stay away. And one more thing, we don't see any mugging from Schwarzenegger, none of the so I think we can all be grateful for that. So all things considered, I'd say this film has earned a score of about an 8.5 out of 10. Awesome. Badass incarnate. And I can only hope we're going to be seeing most of these guys back for the Expendables 3, which they've already confirmed Nicolas Cage for, and they're trying to get Harrison Ford and Clint Eastwood to show up as well. So I'm just hoping they can get as many badass action stars in there as they can, just as long as they give them all something to do. I'll be back. Peace.